Hi, this is Shane Davis. As you may know, I have a background of piano music along with a background in painting and architecture. What a challenge to combine all of these influences into one, or perhaps more, into a new, to me, expression. The artistic expressions being Gestalt art and synesthesia. Gestalt art and synesthesia art have a very long history in themselves, plus both are rather vague to define. In my quest to understand them and present their vagaries and their appeal, I realized how close I have been to their presence since I was about 6 or 7 years old. In my research to find definitions to Gestalt art and synesthesia art, I found that very close examination and understanding to be very revealing, especially very open imagination. Synesthesia. What an unusual word. I never heard of it before. Synesthesia, a fairly long word, and when I researched it, it had an endless number of meanings, some of which I made up. So if you already know what it is, just skip through the description shown here and marvel at its amazing existence. But I never realized its presence until I became much, much older. Perhaps I should explain what synesthesia really is. It reveals its presence differently to each person, and it is different to each individual. For example, here is an indication of synesthesia. It is a painting by Jessie Morrison expressing the way she sees our Canadian flag. Yes, she sees the Canadian flags as we do all. But colors, shapes, and names affect her brain and her expression. Her expression is unique to her and only to her. With Jessie's background in music, sounds and music affect her creativity as well. Our Canadian flag is precise and represents Canada in a whole host of ways. Jessie's way is to depict Canada in a whole series of pointed arrows terminating in the red maple leaf. These colored arrows represent the wide variety of influences which indicate the diversity of Canada's makeup. Even the edges of the painting are detailed. Each letter is one of the colored arrows. Colored letters and numbers in synesthesia have their own meaning. Gestalt art has its own definition, or rather definitions. Some or all definitions are correct or truthful. The more they are studied, the more mysterious Gestaltism becomes. It is here where acceptance is more or less meaningful. You decide. In this Gestalt creation of the Lord's Prayer, Jessie Morrison describes her visualizations of the music she hears and creates unique patterns either expanding from a central point or shrinking into a central point. Colors represent how her brain determines the sounds which Jessie perceives. Synesthesia is actually quite a common phenomenon. There are so many differing descriptions. After a fairly extensive research on the internet, I find there is not a definitive answer. Each person sees or hears or conceives in a unique way. Also, that way can change through time. This is a portion of Jessie Morrison's creation. Note the color change of the numbers and letters, plus note the yellow treble clef has a musical influence. Part of Jessie's influence is from my mother, Rometti Davis. Jessie and Rometti were friends for several years before World War II. Each treated music in a different manner. Jessie was influenced by the Canadian flag and also by various influences. Both Jessie and Rometty were creative people. Jessie taught piano as well as painted pictures on paper or canvas. Rometty also did the same. However, Rometty had a radio program which was heard throughout Vancouver. Jessie Morrison had become interested in synesthesia. In 1910, Claude Debussy had composed music entitled The Sunken Cathedral. The music was based upon a cathedral which was located on a river in medieval France. Several authors, with their individual imaginations, presented their own interpretations and stories to suit the music. Maureen Buja commented that the music did not change, but the descriptive stories changed with each author. Jessie Morrison painted her impressions of the sunken cathedral in a realistic setting. However, with her influence of synesthesia, she revealed her impressions according to her inner expressions. What Jessie produced was this large painting on 2 canvases. Each canvas illustrated a succession of moods through which the storied cathedral was experienced. So it is dependent on the viewer to appreciate the cathedral's reality. It must be noted the very intricate style of depiction. Each brushstroke is extremely careful. Careful in color, careful in meaning, careful in shape, and careful in relation to its neighbor's intensity. In panel 2 of Sunken Cathedral, some viewers say that it is unfinished, while others say it depicts the cathedral under water and out of sight. Here is how Jessie visualized the sunken cathedral in real life, rather than being presented in synesthesia. Here are a few letters sent by Rometty Davis from 1939 to 1972. On November 23, 1948, Rometty Davis wrote a letter to Jessie, in part to say, "I am going to play the entire Moonlight Sonata for you on December the 5th, 1948. Love, Chris." Here are photos of Rometty, Jessie, Jessie's devoted husband Ted, along with Rometty's daughter Beverly, one period photo and one more recent. It is not only the paintings and music that live on, but part of Jessie and Rometty also live on. Meanwhile, Jessie is displaying her love for synesthesia. Her depiction is of Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. Physically, it is a large work composed of 4 equal parts. Each part signifies a season. With its 4 seasons, it invites the viewer to search for each season, recognize each season, discover its unique components, and move on to the rest of the seasons and their unique components. We shall begin with spring. Jessie depicts each week with color, starting with the melting of the winter snows. Summer reveals the warmth of the sunshine and the vigorous growth of the flowers and vegetable crops. Next, we examine the 13 weeks of autumn. The flowers are in their prime and the crops are ready to harvest. Winter reveals the transition into cooling days and nights. The days become frigid. The weather insists on our wearing warm clothing. One of the many fascinations with Jessie Morrison's creations is the careful application of color, texture, and form shapes. The shapes vary from each week of time, from each day, and from each hour as well. It seems that the viewer can begin to fathom how Jessie heard the music and expressed each note of her inner visualization. Pure synesthesia. Synesthesia is quite a common phenomenon. There are so many differing descriptions. After a fairly extensive research on the internet, I find there is not a definitive answer. Each person sees or hears or conceives in a unique way. Also, that way can change through time. This painting by Jessie gives a sense of depth through color. The color changes with each circle and exists within the black and white background. As a viewer, one's eyes search for the 7 circles. Synesthesia in some people registers each letter or number displays its own color. Similarly, the scripts such as the treble clef or bass clef have their own color distinction. In this collection of multicolored strips of paper, which vary in width, are applied over a background of white. The total appearance is one of complete mystery, or an intricate puzzle. What was the synesthesia source? Window blinds, cityscapes, or sliced sausage, or, that is why I name it, puzzle. Also a puzzle are the asking prices by the art dealer. Some creations have no price. Others have a changed price, while one is sold as a pair. Artists often are influenced by other artists. Here Jessie was influenced by Picasso. The subject is the reclining nude. Jessie heard of Picasso's reclining nude, thus her interpretations appeared, and very different it was. Oh, it had the obvious forms of reality, but it incorporated components of music, such as the musical notes and symbols. Each shape, each color, each detailed component represents the reclining nude. Jessie's depiction is unique and expressed her ideas. Picasso created at least 3 different reclining nudes, each one telling a different story. Although very faint, Jessie signed her name near a corner. The quote echoes Pablo Picasso's quote of, "Art is a lie that makes us realize the truth." This is a sign which is displayed on the indigenous land of Duncan, BC. Is it unique, or does it remind the viewer of Picasso? Here is how Jessie Morrison visualized the sunken cathedral in real life, rather than being presented in synesthesia. Creations are often influenced by other artists. Google is aware of individuality. Jessie Morrison is presenting this painting inspired by Johann Sebastian Bach. It is a major creation in synesthesia. I was not conscious enough to realize just how fascinating it really is. This is synesthesia at its best. For the classical piano listeners, the opening passages are performed by Beverly. The notes, the tempo, the feelings are familiar and delightful and timeless. Revelation is an immense feature of synesthesia. After following this painting for many years, a close examination is astounding. Its expression is basically colored circles joined by strings of differing colors representing movement and feelings. Each circle expresses completeness. Each string links portions of totality. This painting by Jesse Morrison quietly links a string of ideas. The larger the circle, the more important the idea becomes. The smaller the circle, the more intricate the message. Over the many years of my viewing this painting, I did not see the surprise message. The message visible by all. That is, if extreme concentration is observed. To be fair, I hope, the painting has been hung upside down. The letters are true to the synesthesic effect, colored letters on appropriately colored background. Here is the painting hung in Jesse's studio. Note the large yellow circle located on the lower edge. Then, here is Beverly many years later. Note the yellow circle located at the top. The letters of the title are close to the upper edge. All of this lends a surprising effect to such a grand creation. Here is Jessie standing next to the painting in her studio many years ago. Here is Beverly next to the painting with the painting upside down. The surprise message now at the top. Not to criticize the paintings hanging upside down, the mere presence of the painting is pure synesthesia in whichever position it is located. These many segments of paintings comprise multiple moods of shapes, colors, and groupings. How amazing it is to delve into the mind of Jesse Morrison. At the same time, it is quite astounding that Remetti Davis created such differing works of art. Also, Jesse was influenced by the piano program of Remetti Davis, which used Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring as Remetti's theme song on Stairway to Stardom. With synesthesia having such a broad-reaching description, it is hard to classify what we see. Or is it easy to call this creation as synesthesia? Whatever we call it, it is distinctive. It is easy to name this control center whatever we want, and it fits any description we care to place upon it. In reality, it is fascinating and it is delightful. I wonder how many visitors to Centennial Park take notice of such a distinctive entity. One aspect of being an artist is the nature of naming a finished work. Jessie's creations sometimes bear her name, while others do not. Rules seem to adapt to the background of the painting. My experience is mostly consistent, but Jessie was often influenced by synesthesia. Through the many years in which Jessie and Remetti were very close friends, Remetti often sent cards to Jessie. It is quite intriguing to see the elegant script which Remetti had throughout her life.